Well, hello, Internet! Very often I get the same cascading style sheet questions asked, and in this one video I'm going to answer about 50 of the most common questions that I get asked all the time. In the description you'll find a link to all of them, so you'll be able to really quickly find whatever problem you might have, click on it, and find a solution. So I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so on the left side of the screen I have a basic text editor, and over on the right side of the screen I have HTML, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of different things here. Let's just start off by editing my body tag. Now, very often it is very useful to use the EM unit sizing for our text and just about everything else because it scales so nicely. The only problem is the EMs sort of don't make sense. Well, I'm going to show you a really easy way for them to make sense. What we're going to do is come in here and define our font size as 62.5%. Now, if you don't remember, basically whenever we use EMs document wide, all of your sizing is going to be based off of the root level font size. In this situation, that's going to be body. So by making this 62.5%, what we're going to be able to do, if we take 16 times 62.5%, that is going to equal 10. And what that's going to allow us to do is, let's say that we want to define something as 1.6 EM, that is going to be equivalent to 16 pixels, which is a very common way for us to style fonts, and that is what we're going to do. So that's just the first thing we're going to do here. Then I often come in and define my margins as 0 for my body. This is going to solve a lot of problems, as well as my padding, also for 0. Very common question is how to get images to repeat. So I'm going to use background image, and we're just going to go URL. Repeat pattern .ping is something that I have saved. And why don't we just come over here and reload that, and you're going to see there is a repeating pattern. Now, as we mess around with this, it's going to get very, very sloppy, but we're going to clean it up slowly but surely. And you can see there is a repeating pattern, and that is how simple it is to do that. By default, it's going to repeat to the right as well as downwards. So another thing we hear about all the time is how do we use a fixed background during scrolling. We're just going to go background attachment, right like that. And here I can just say fixed, and whenever we reload it, you can see that everything is scrolling, but the background is staying just firm, just the way it is. You can use repeating backgrounds at the same time that you use a fixed position for your scrolling. Let's come in here and let's style the wrapper so we'll be able to see this a little bit better. And the wrapper I just use all the time so that I can style everything and have styling that completely surrounds everything on my document. Now here for font size, I can just go 1.6 EM, and that's going to work for us because of this guy up here. It's going to make a lot of sense. You can think of that like 16 pixels, which is a very common way of using fonts. Come in here and style my padding. Margin 0 and auto is going to put everything in the center of the screen. Let's just give ourselves a fixed width of 900 pixels, a height of 2000 pixels, and we're going to be messing around later on to show how we can make a fluid sort of layout so that we won't have to worry about defining the height. And let's make this white, and now you can see it looks a little bit better. And if we come out here, you can also see that the non-scrolling background is there still working for us. Now let's get back inside of here and do a couple more styling with our body. And let's say that we want to create a gradient background. Well, in this situation we're going to have to do some cross-browser stuff. And in this situation, I'm going to use the linear gradient layout, and you can see it right there, and exactly all the different ways we're going to have to use or define for this to be cross-browser. And you can see I just want to start the gradient at the top of the screen, go downwards, and we're going to start off with black and then fade to gray. And if we save that and reload it, you can see that's exactly what it does. Starts at black and fades to gray. And it's also staying stable there as well because we still have the non-scrollable background. And I have a link in the description that has all this code, and it's basically set up like a cheat sheet, so you'll be able to use this to do all kinds of different things. Copy and paste. Another thing we might want to do is use a scalable background image. And to do that, what we're going to do is go background image. And I'm going to use a completely different one. I'm going to link to my URL, and let's say I have a mountain background. Make sure you always put the semicolons there at the end. Then you're going to want to define your position as center. Remember, we're trying to make a background that is going to automatically scale as the browser window scales. I'm also going to come in and make a background attachment and make this fixed. Then we're going to have to do another CSS3 trick here and make it cross-browser. And what we're going to be using is background size with the default set for cover. And now you can see as the background or the browser window scales, so does your background image. So another neat little trick. Now let's go outside of the body section. And it's normally a good idea to set your default margins and paddings for all of your elements to 0 so that you can build from that. And to do that, we use star, and then we're just going to say margin and 0 and padding and 0. Another thing that is very useful to be able to do is to include all of your padding and your margins inside of the width and height that you define for all of your elements. And to do that document wide, you're also going to do that after the star, which once again is going to focus on every single element, the whole entire document wide. And you're going to use box sizing with border box. Like I said, it's just simply going to collapse. If you say that an element is going to be a certain height and width, it's going to include the margins and padding with it. And it just keeps from a whole bunch of things overloading. Let's reload that. You can see here, because I changed my margins and paddings, that things are a little bit sloppy, but we're going to fix that up. Let's go down inside of our wrapper area here and change a whole bunch of other different things. Let's say you wanted to place a non-repeating background, and we're going to do it in the wrapper in this situation. So, and let's put 2 of them down. So we're going to go background and image, and I'm going to do URL, flower, background, and this is a ping file as well. We have to remember it's going to, by default, repeat both horizontally as well as vertically. So if we wanted to do something different, we're going to have to say, in this situation, we're going to say no repeat, and we're just going to put it in one position. And the position that we want to put it in, background position, let's say we want to put it in the bottom right. And of course, you could do the top and left and all those other different things. So I'm going to do bottom right in this situation. And if we do that and reload it, you're going to see there is our little flower that we put in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Now we're also going to be able to put 2 of those background images in there if you would like. And to do that, we're going to go background, and here we're going to define URL, and let's do flower background again. There that is. Put our ping file in there, and let's say we want to put it in the top right. This is going to look a little bit weird. We can also go and do no repeat here as well, and then we could also go URL, flower background, ping, bottom, and I'm basically just overriding the other one that I created already. No repeat, and then we're going to put white inside of there and reload it, and you can see there's the flower background right there. And there's the other flower background. So you can use multiple different backgrounds all on this different screen, whatever you'd like. Also very easily come in and change the opacity for the wrapper, which is basically going to be everything that's on the screen except for the body, which is going to be the background. And then of course the background body is going to show through, as you can see right there. And another thing that's kind of interesting is, let's say we want to use custom fonts. Now there's multiple different ones I like to use, but let's say we want to use Google Fonts in this situation. You can just type in Google Web Fonts, and Google has a ton of different fonts that are all free. Another option is Font Squirrel, but you have to pay for those fonts. So I'm kind of cheap, so I just like to use whatever I want to use. And let's come in here, and let's specifically, one of the very popular ones is called Lobster. So let's just type in Lobster, and there's Lobster right there. To use it, you just come in here and click on your little button, scroll down here. You're going to want to take this guy, this link right here, and copy it, jump over into your HTML, and you can see I already went in there and pasted that in. So you're just going to paste that guy right there, and then very easily jump back over into our CSS. And let's say we wanted to style this H1 that's up here, Sherlock Holmes. Let's say we want to style that guy. Give it this funky font, go H1, and we're going to say font family like this. And you can just jump over here to the Google Fonts, and it's going to tell you exactly what to do. You're going to use font family, lobster, or cursive. Copy that, jump back over here, paste that in, and reload it. And you can see now you have a funky type of cool looking font right there that you're going to be automatically able to use. And of course it's from Google and it's free. So thank you, Google. Another thing that's very common is that we want to use our links however we want to use them. And very often we do not want underlines with our links. And I'm sure many people know how to do this. And visited. And then you're just going to say text, decoration, none. That's going to get rid of any underlines you have in your links. Another thing you might want to do, however, is highlight the links anytime somebody hovers over them. And to do that, we can just go hover and background color and reload it. And you can see that line went away, but if we put our mouse over top of our link, you can see that it automatically has that different background, which is kind of cool. So now let's go in here and style our header section, and of course we're going to be able to use these tags multiple times. So I have an H1 tag there. Say I want to put an H1 tag down here. No problem, it's just going to override anything. I'm going to put a margin bottom on this guy of 0, and then I'm going to put a text shadow on it. And to do that, we can just do text shadow, And here you're going to do how much you want it to move to the right and downwards, and how much of a blur you want, and then your color of choice. You can see now there's a text shadow on there. It looks kind of cool. We could then come in and let's style these paragraphs a little bit, and let's give them a margin of 10 pixels. You see they spread out a little bit. Let's also say that I want to then come in and remove the margin for a paragraph if it follows an H1. To do that, look for an H1 and a paragraph, and then we could change our margin top to 0. If you'd like to indent text, so the first paragraph I here has a class of first P. If we jump over here and look at that, see, first P, there it is. Let's say I want to go in there and indent that text specifically. Just type in first P like this, and padding left, and then 4.em or 1.4 em, and you can see that indented. So I'm just rocketing through all the different ways of doing all these things. Let's say you also want to enlarge the first letter of a paragraph. Let's say in this situation I want to enlarge the first letter of my fourth paragraph. I can just go fourth P, and I can target the first letter right like this. Let's say I want to change my font size 200%. I'm then going to want to float it to the left so that it has a little bit of shape there, and change my line height to 1. See how that works. Reload, and you can see there is the T, and it's a little bit enlarged, and it fits right in there. And the reason why it fits inside of there is because of the float. Now let's go in here and fix my dog pick, this little cute dog up here. Gonna focus in on this guy again, dog pick. Let's throw a border on him. If you want to know how to, you can throw borders on pretty much anything. So solid, and let's just make it black just for simplistic reasons. Let's also throw a margin in there, 10 pixels. And the reason why is we're going to float that to the left so that it works seamlessly with all the text, but also has some shape there. And there you can see, very, very simple. Another thing we can do, say we want to add a drop shadow to our little dog picture. Again, we want to do this in a cross-browser way. So in this situation, I'm going to use box shadow. And just like before, we're going to say how much we want it to move horizontally and vertically. And this is going to be the blur amount, and this is going to be the size of the shadow, and this is going to be the color of the shadow. And you can see that's just how easy it is to add a little box shadow. Say we also want to come in here and round the corners of this box. Again, this is a cross-browser way of changing the border radius, and we're going to change that radius by 10 pixels. Reload it, and now you can see it's rounded. And then finally, let's say we want to rotate the image. Again, cross-browser, we're going to target using rotate, and we're just going to rotate it 3 degrees, and there you can see it's rotated 3 degrees. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to work with images, and we'll get into a couple more. Another thing we want to do here is, let's say that we want to use an image inside of our list items. Here's a list item right down here, and let's say we want to throw in a little picture inside of there instead of using boring bullets and things like that. Well, we just go list, style, image, and if you can see here, I'm using Sublime Text. If you have a little bit of a nice editor, it's going to automatically throw in everything you need there. You're not going to have to think. So I enjoy not having to think if at all possible. Let's come in here, and if we want to remove the list indents, which can be unsightly, we can just go list style, type, and change that to none. And we're going to have to also change our padding left. Let's make that 20 pixels, and then remove the margin left automatically. And we'll change that to 0. Boink. Now you have little cute little icons there instead of ugly bullets. And you can play around with the margins and have that line up however you'd like. If you would then want to have all of your list items instead displayed horizontally, these are called notices, that's the name of this class. We would then target our list items like this, and then display inline, reload, and now you can see they line up horizontally. It got rid of the bullets and all that, but here is the list items right there, all horizontally set up. And now let's mess around with tables. So we have this table down here that has all kinds of football statistics inside of it. I'm going to style that guy up. First thing I'm going to do is target the table as a whole, and I'm going to define that I want my caption, which by default goes at the top, so this guy up here, I'm going to automatically put that down at the bottom instead. And to do that, you have to go caption side and change it to bottom. And there you can see NFL football stats goes down at the bottom. We could then come in and target quarterback stats. We bounce over here and look at it. Where's our table at? You can see here is a table. There's the caption. There you are. And the name of this is quarterback stats. That's the table again. So we could either target it as the table or using the class name. Doesn't really matter. Let's say that we want our width for this to be 600 pixels. We could add a border to this of 1 pixels, and let's make it solid, and let's make it black. If we want to eliminate any space between our cells, we could do border collapse and set that for collapse. Change this to quarterback stats. And there you can see our table starting to look a little bit nicer. If we would want to come in and put a border around our cells, we could do quarterback stats, target the rows, and let's also target the headers, stats, th, and then go border, 1 pixel. Let's make it solid, and let's make it black again. Coming together, looking a little bit nicer each time we make a little change here. We could then style the table column specifically. So quarterback stats, TD. Say we want to have the text alignment set for center because we think that'll look a little bit nicer. And we could come in and do some padding as well. Say 0.3 EM. Coming together, looking a little bit nicer. Now let's come in and style our table headings specifically. Change our font weight to bold so that they show up a little bit nicer. Change our padding to the same 0.3 EM. Let's give them a different background color, a little bit darker color, and let's change our text color to white so that it shows up nice. Boom, coming together. Alright, so let's go in here and change a couple other different things. Let's say we want to alternate the colors on our table rows, a very common thing people like to do. We can just go TR and then go Nth child, and let's say we want to do styling on the odds. You could also put even inside of there to get the absolute opposite results. And then you just go background color. And if you're wondering where I get these colors from, well, let's reload it so you can see that. There you go. It's looking pretty cool. I just go wiki colors, and if you go on here, right, this guy right here, Wikipedia, wiki, list of colors A through F. You're going to see a whole ton of different colors, and this is where I get all those colors from. I've shown you guys this before, but what the heck, thought I'd show it again. Another thing that might be kind of neat is if we're trying to look at this table right here, let's say we would like to really be able to focus in whenever we hover over certain rows. We can also do that. Quarterback stats and TR, and we can specifically zoom in on hover and make changes only when it's hovered over. And background color. Kind of neat to figure out what you can do and what things you can change whenever you're hovering over different things. It's a nice little touch you don't often see on most websites. And we can also change the color of the text if we'd like, and reload. And now whenever we go over all these different rows, we'll be able to really focus in and be able to read the information in the table a lot cooler. And you can see just these 2 little lines of text right here, and it adds a lot of functionality. It's something you don't often see, and it's really cool. Now let's go into actually styling forms, and you can see here is a form right here, and it's very, very ugly. So let's make it so that everything lines up a little bit nicer. Now this has the ID of custom form, so let's target that. And let's give it a width, first off, of 375 pixels. We can then target a div inside of it, so custom form. And you can see over here what that is. So let's get out of this. And here is our form right here, and it has the ID of custom form. So custom form, and then inside of it, it has a div. Okay, so custom form, div. Say we want to float this to the left side of our screen with 375 pixels. Add some padding to this guy, so 0.5 EM. Basically the same thing. On the right, let's add a little bit more padding though. See, it's starting to straighten up a little bit. So let's add a little bit more width to all of our labels so that they will all line up for themselves. So let's go custom form and target the labels, which is the thing that's causing problems. You can see here the labels are butting up right next to the input fields, and you know, kind of a mess. So let's fix that. Do a float left on those, and then define their width. Let's make it 100 pixels. See what that looks like. Boom. And there you can see they line up a little bit better. Let's also come in and specifically target the input fields. Custom form, which we have a text area here, and let's also go and target the inputs that are inside of the form, and let's give all of those the same width of 250 pixels. Boom. Now everything lines up, looks a lot neater. Got that submit button down there looking kind of ugly though, so let's go and fix that as well. So let's go custom submit. Let's float it to the right side of the screen with auto, and then give it a margin right of 10 pixels. See what that does. Reload. Boom. There you can see it lines up really nicely and looks a little bit nicer. And it looks a lot nicer than it did before. Another thing that's kind of neat is to be able to really highlight the different parts of the form whenever they are accepting input. And how you can do that. Go custom form, input, and use focus. So anytime an input field has focus, we're going to change its background color. There, background color. And you can play around with this and pick a color that you think works best for you. There we go. Just that one line of text. And now whenever you focus, you're going to see the background colors ever so slightly changes. So that's useful. And then we could do exactly the same thing for the text area. So let's just come in here and we could just do this, copy, just to keep it simple, and then focus. Reload, and now you can see the color change there as well. Just little touches here and there. That's what this whole tutorial is basically about, just little tiny changes you can make that add a lot of functionality. Now let's say that we want to come in here and let's just imagine this is a store or something like that. And we want to float a discount offer up here on the right side of our screen. How might we go about doing that? And we can see here, if we come way down, there it is. Div class discount is the name of the class. And let's say we want to float 50% off with offer code Sherlock. Okay, let's say we're selling Sherlock Holmes stuff here. Well, to target that, we're just going to go to discount, change our background color here to a white, so that shows up real nice and easy. Let's go and throw a border on it because things like that normally have a border. And we'll say 4 pixels solid, and let's make that black. And we'll throw a little bit of a padding on that as well of 10 pixels. And then let's have our font size, which would make a lot of sense if it was 14. But we're using our little EM trick that I showed you here first off. So we're going to be able to go 1.4 EM. And now what we're going to want to do is, since we want this to float up here on the top right hand side of the screen, and the div is actually in the HTML way far below, what we're going to do is we're going to position this absolutely. So whenever you do things absolutely, the positioning is going to be based on the viewport, the browser window itself. And we're going to see that sometimes things like that can go horribly wrong, but I'm going to show you how to fix that. So we're going to go absolute, and we're going to say top 0 pixels from the very top of the viewport, and then we'll say right 55 pixels, so 55 pixels from the right, and reload it. And you can see there's our offer code right there. But you can see also that as it is moving around, it's sort of looking terrible. So let's fix that. It's bouncing around a lot. We don't want that. We want it to stay more fixed. Well, we can fix that really easy by just targeting our wrapper and then set our position for the wrapper to be relative. So that means whenever this is positioned, absolutely, this discount div that's inside of the wrapper, it is going to be positioned absolutely relative to the wrapper that surrounds it. Reload it. Boom. Now you're going to see, whenever we resize it, it is not moving around. It is going to stay exactly where it is. So kind of cool. We could also come in here. Now, you would never do this. You would try to keep all of your different styling together. But let's say I want to move that discount over a little bit so that it's positioned right on the very edge of the wrapper. Reload. And now you can see it is. It's positioned right there. And no matter how this is sized, it's automatically going to stay exactly where it is. You're probably wondering down here in this HTML, what are all these puppy pictures and what am I going to do with them? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them into a gallery. So the name of these puppy pictures, or what surrounds them, is gallery. You can see right here, UL class gallery, and they're in an unordered list. So I can target them by going UL gallery like this. We of course want to eliminate all of our bullets, and to do that we go list style and none. There are, our bullets are gone. If we don't want to allow our elements to have anything on the left or the right of our gallery, so that what I'm saying is we want this gallery to come down here, so there's not going to be a form on the left side of the screen, we can just go clear and both, and that will not allow anything on the left side or the right side of our gallery. And you can see there, see they automatically move down. Now what I'm going to do is target each one of my list items, and I'm going to display them using inline block. Now, a lot of people get confused about what exactly does inline block mean. Well, basically we have different ways of categorizing elements inside of our page or inside of our document. Inline elements are going to be elements that are not followed by a new line. And whenever you use inline elements, one of the negatives is that you're unable to style the margins, the padding, the height, width, and so forth and so on. So if we want to have our elements act like inline elements, meaning there's not going to be a new line, so that we can have our gallery items all lined up right after another. However, we also want to come in and be able to style the margins and paddings and heights. What we use is inline block. We can then position them relative. And what we're doing with this is we're going to set it up this way so that I can position the spans, like eating stick, and all these guys are only going to show up if you float over your image. So I'm going to be working with an element inside of my pictures, which is just a span, and I'm going to have them show up anytime I float over top the image. You'll see here in a second. I'm going to target your gallery and specifically target my spans. I'm going to give them a width of 250 pixels because that's the size of my image. I'm going to give them a height of 35 pixels. I'm going to have them align to the center of my image. And then I want to specifically position the span on the gallery images. So to do that, go position, absolute. So we use relative here so that these are positioned absolutely relative to the pictures. Okay, so just like we did previously. I'm going to have them show up positioned absolutely on those pictures, 0 pixels on the bottom, and then start on the left, 0 pixels. So it's going to completely cover the bottom of the image whenever we put our mouse over it. You're going to see here in a second how I do that. Let's change our background color to black, but give it an opacity of 75%. So it looks kind of nice and the image shows through. And then to finish off, let's say we want our color to be white, so that the little text shows up on the image really nice. We can then go UL gallery span and have the default for our span whenever it's not being hovered on, the margin left, set for something extremely large like 10,000 pixels. So that means the span by default is going to be off the screen. And then what we can do is go UL gallery, and whenever the list items are hovered over, we want to target our span that is there and move the margin left to 0. And boom. And everything lines up, and you can see, and have a little bit of a bug. Make sure that we spell everything right. There's position and reload. And now you can see whenever we put our mouse over top of the image, the little span pops up there and gives us more information on the image. So there's a whole bunch of different things we can do, tricks with CSS. Now what I'm going to do is focus in on layouts and how to set up a 2-column layout as well as a 3-column layout. Okay, so you see here I have a basic little bit of HTML, and what I'm going to do is style this into a 2-column layout and then show you how easy it is to transfer it into a 3-column layout. So I'm again going to come in here and target every single thing on the screen, and I'm going to set my margin to 0 on that and my padding to 0 on that. And very often you use something called normalize to normalize everything across the entire website, and I normally do use that. You can see a lot about that in my Suzy tutorial, which is on my YouTube channel. Let's come in here and first off start targeting the background color for our body. And let's just make this gray again just to keep everything simple. Again, we're going to change our font size for the body to 62.5% so that we can use EMs and make them make sense. We can then target our wrapper, which is going to wrap around every single element on our web page. And let's change that to 900 pixels. Let's change document wide our font size to 1.6 EM. Let's have everything automatically center. There, that's how we do that. And let's change the background color for this guy to white. Reload that. And there you can see it's sort of kind of coming together. First off, what jumps out is the padding onto the paragraphs. Looks absolutely horrendous. So let's change our padding. Change it to 0, 0, 1 EM, and 0 again. See how that works out. Reload. We have our unordered list down here, which is going to eventually be in the sidebar. Let's target that, UL, and let's get our padding left on that. Change that to 20 pixels. Now let's mess around with our header section. So we have cute but dangerous. Let's make that look a little bit nicer. And let's jump over here and look at this. All right, so basically I have, here's the regular head section. You can see I'm going to use another Google font here. Here's my link to my style sheet right there. And you can see here is the wrapper, which surrounds everything. Here is the header, which just has an H1 tag in it that says cute but dangerous. So let's style that. So header. Do a whole bunch of things here. Let's change text align. Let's have it automatically align to the right side of the screen. Let's target my background color on this and let's make it brown just to see what that looks like. Change our color for our text to white, so that shows up nice. Change padding across the entire thing to 2EM. Change our font family. This is another Google font I have. It's called Permanent Marker, or therefore we'll use cursive by default. And then finish everything off, we'll add a text shadow, which you saw previously, and 2 pixels to the right, 2 pixels vertically, and the amount of blur that we want. If we want to define a very specific color with our alpha, let's just have this be 0, 0, 0, which is going to be black, and then we'll have it be 50%. Couple little minor changes, and you get pretty dramatic results. Okay, so let's change this again. Let's focus in on the main part, which is going to surround all of the article information. So come over here, see right here is main, and then I have everything divided into sections for each one of these guys. And there's going to be H2 tags, there's going to be a picture, there's going to be a couple paragraphs of information, and then you can see there's another section there. So main is going to surround all of the actual articles on our web page. So let's do a couple little things here. Let's say padding, and let's make this 2EM, and position relative. That means I'm going to be styling some things inside of here, absolutely. So let's save that. And now you can see it fits better inside of the screen there. Let's go and target our image, and as you can see, let's go here. I gave everything a class in this situation so that I could specifically target the mean koala picture right here. I gave it 2 class names. So I have mean koala, so I can target it specifically, and then I have art image, so I can target all of my art images. So I'm going to target art image, which is going to be both of those. I'm going to float them to the left so that the text wraps around them, and then I'm going to give them a margin of 10 pixels. You can see everything's just snaps right together. Let's go with our H2 tags. Let's say that we want to add a little bit of a margin to those. So that, and margin bottom. And let's go 10 pixels. And let's also come in here, target that HR tag, and give it a little bit more of a margin on the bottom. Let's say 10 pixels. Actually, let's make this 1EM. See how that looks. Reload. Now you can see they're divided up a little bit better. Actually, for the HR tag, I'm just going to target all the margins. So let's reload. There, that looks a little bit nicer. Now I'm going to target my vertical navigation. Bounce over into the HTML here again. Vertical navigation's down here. It is an unordered list that is in an aside, and this guy is going to go in my sidebar on the left side, or on the right side of the screen. So let's target that. Vertical nav. First, let's go and get list style type. Set that to none, so that doesn't have any of those ugly bullets on there. And let's change our padding to 0 pixels on all those. If we want to target the individual list items now, we can go vertical nav, LI, and I'm going to want to display them block in this situation because I want them to be on separate lines, and I also want to be able to style them by messing with the borders and so forth. And bottom, border bottom, and I want to put 1 pixel dotted, and let's make that brown. Reload, and there you can see they are down there. I want to put them over here on the right side of the screen, however, and as you can remember, they are on or inside of an aside. So let's say I want to make that 250 pixels wide. You can go width 250 pixels. I want to float it to the right side of the screen so that I have 2 bars, and let's go and give it a background color of a light brown. And something else that's kind of cool is very often it looks really nice whenever, well, let's just do this. File save, reload. There you can see it's down there on the right side of the screen. Let's go in here to the main section, and the reason why it's on the right side of the screen is because we have the main section, we want to have that be float left. And let's give it a width of, say, 550 pixels. And of course you're going to have to measure this out, see how that works. Boom. And there you can see is our sidebar up there, and here is the main section right there. And the white went away, but we're going to fix that in a second. Another thing we want to zero in on here is how exactly can we get the sidebar to stretch the whole way down to the bottom of the screen, even though there's no content here? Well, there's a little trick we can do with our aside. We can go padding, bottom, and then pick an astronomical number that you know you won't go by, so 5,000 pixels, for example. And then what we do is we go margin, bottom, instead of the padding bottom, like that, and set it to negative 5,000 pixels. Has to be the same exact amount. And now you can see it stretches down there out, even though there is no content down there. So that's a neat little trick. We're then going to clean up everything here with our footer as well. And also we're going to want to hide any of the sidebar. See, it automatically goes down here and goes 5,000 pixels. So if we want to hide that, what we have to do is get an element that surrounds everything. And in this situation, wrapper surrounds everything, and go overflow hidden. So that will give us a full length sidebar no matter how big the content area is here, but it's also going to hide any extra space. Reload, and there you can see the white came back, and the sidebar is exactly the same height as your main content area. And then finally, we want to go in here to our footer section, which is just a bar. We want to make sure that no elements go on the right or the left side of it. We just go clear both, and background color, just so it stands out a little bit better. Let's just change that to brown just for simplistic reasons. And we can define our height for this to 100 pixels and our width to 900 pixels, which is exactly the same as the header, and margin is going to be 0 and auto, so that it does exactly the same things as our header. And there's our footer. So that is how we go and create a 2-column website. How hard is it to change this into a 3-column website? Well, it's actually going to be pretty simple. I'm going to go into my HTML section, and I'm going to come right here, right after the header. And if I want something to go on the left side of the screen, so I'm going to have a left sidebar and a right sidebar. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to create a div. I'm going to call it left nav. Unordered list, just like before. I'm just going to use the same exact thing here just for the heck of it, just to keep it simple. And I'm going to save that. I'm going to jump over into my CSS file and just keep on adding some styling to this. So I just need to allow for space so that everything is going to fit in. I'm going to target the left nav, which is the HTML that I just threw inside of there. I'm going to define its width as 200 pixels, so it's going to fit there on our screen. I'm going to float it to the left side of the screen because it's going to be my left sidebar. Let's go and give it the same background as well as list style and padding as this guy right here. So background color, and I want this, and I want the padding so that it goes the whole way down the screen. So let's just go in there, paste that in, and let's also say that I want to, well, let's go and also target the list style type, change that to none so that we don't have any bullets, and then let's go and give it a padding of 0. But we want to do that before we go and mess around with the padding bottom right there. Reload, and there you can see it shows up. But our other sidebar goes down to the right side of the screen because we didn't allow for enough space for that. So we're going to target left nav, unordered list, and give it a padding of 0 pixels. Then target each of the individual list items. Left nav, li again. We're going to display those as blocks so that once again we'll be able to use borders and so forth on them. We're going to do a border bottom, exactly the same as we did before. 1 pixel, dotted, and brown. And then we'll add some custom padding to these. So 0.5 em, 0 on the right side, 0 right side padding, 0.5 em, that's the bottom padding, and 0.5 em for the left padding. We're then going to have to target the main section and shrink it down so we have room for our left and right sidebar. So let's just try something simple like a width of 400 pixels, and then target the aside and give it a width of 200 pixels just like we did with the left sidebar. And there you can see everything lines up really nice at this right sidebar. Let's go and mess with that a little bit too. So let's just copy this so that it looks the same as the other one. Come in here, paste that in there. Oh, that's not the one that I want to target. Let's get rid of that. Try that one. Boom. So there you go. That is how easy it is to do a 2-column as well as a 3-column layout in CSS. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create responsive website designs. So please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.